so I am jamming on this monk tune, which I can't remember the name of right now, but you know which one I'm talking about. So it has this tune has always been a kind of a problem for me, or it used to be a problem for me, because it is not clear to me what you're supposed to do when you're soloing over those chords. So in this video I want to talk about certain vamps where you have two chords going back and forth, but there's not one scale that you can use over both, and how you can treat those situations. So there's three different vamps, that I want to talk about, and this is one of them. So let's look at what it is. It's a B-flat dominant chord, right? To a B. So that's kind of a B-flat with its dominant, but it's a sub 5. So it's kind of like a B-flat to F altered. You could think of it that way too. So the correct scales would be B dominant, Lydian dominant, or Lydian flat 7. Sorry, B flat Lydian flat 7 to B Lydian flat 7. So first of all, let's just try to play those scales. So we have, if I'm improvising using those scales, it would be right? So that can be useful, and you want to practice like that, and it can sound cool and hip. The problem is I'm getting kind of trapped in those, like, I need to move that scale to next to the, and when you're on the bandstand and you're starting playing with people, this is what happened to me. You notice in these types of situations, whoever is soloing, a lot of times they don't really care about, those scales. You could just play some kind of B-flat blues over the whole thing. Right? Because that kind of works. The blues scale kind of wins over all those harmonies because it's such a strong sound. But you don't want to do that because you're lazy. You want to do that. A lot of times the truth lies in the middle, in somewhere in between those two ways to look at it. So playing some kind of bluesy stuff and B-flat stuff, and then every now and then you throw in that B or F dominant scale, so F altered or B Lydian flat 7. And you're kind of hinting to that. You can also use the triads, right? So, but again, if you do that all the time, it gets kind of boring. So some kind of B flat, and then I throw in that B. So I'm mixing. Also, I could probably just try to play B-flat Dorian over the whole thing. Let's just try that. It's called harmonic generalization. Is when you treat two chords with different scales as just one chord and ignore some of the notes, because half of the notes going to be right anyway, right? So B-flat Dorian might work. Right? And it's also good to be aware of which notes are the same, which notes that you can find in both those scales, like the F, what else? The A flat are in the both of them, and I can't think of it right now. So you could also kind of experiment with some kind of B flat dominant scale, like whole tone, for example. B flat whole tone. So I moved it up a half step there. You could do the both whole tone scales if you want to as well. So that's kind of my opinion in the spirit of Thelonious Monk, right? More than just playing the correct scale over each chord. So again, you want to practice being able to play the correct corresponding scale to each chord. But as always, you also want to prepare yourself for the reality where that might not be the best thing to do. And in these videos, I'm trying to find stuff that you don't talk, or that the jazz theory book won't tell you, right? So this is kind of one of those things that I had problem figuring out what to do on a tune like that, but there wasn't any jazz theory book that would explain to me what you could do. You have to kind of learn it on the bandstand, as it were. So now let's move on to a similar situation. This tune. Can't think of that name right now either. Getting old or something, I can't remember names of tunes, but you know which tune I'm talking about. So it starts with a vamp. So it's an E flat dominant to D minor. So it's pretty much the same thing as before, just reversed, and it's minor instead of major dominant. So the correct scale would be E flat Lydian flat 7, which is A altered, to D harmonic minor, I guess, or D some kind of minor. So let's try that. You might think that, well, that's very cool and everything, but it's like you're being trapped and you can't get out, kind of. So again, and here I remember I was on a gig with a trombone player once who was more experienced than me, and he just played, I remember that he just played some very D minor stuff. He even went like, so he just played D minor, and I thought, wow, that sounds really great. He's not playing the E flat. I'll try to demonstrate what I'm talking about. So he was going. Completely ignoring the E flat there, and you know, because it doesn't really matter, you need to, your lines need to have some kind of direction, and your phrasing is more important than playing the right scale. Having said that, again, you want to be able to play the right notes, because that's you need to be able to do that, but you also want to be able to be more flexible, right? So you could play some kind of dominant, I'm sorry, a pentatonic, like D minor pentatonic or blues here too. And every now and then you throw in that E flat thing. Right, so I'm thinking D minor, but I'm aware of that E flat so that I can hint to it and throw in a you need kind of some things to do that are very E flat there. Another thing that can happen is that those chords we talked about earlier, the B flat and the B, they could move even quicker. Like not even a bar each. There I totally ignore the B. I play B flats because that sounds better to me. So there, yeah, maybe you can hint to the dominant there as well, but basically it's just B flat. It's one of those things again, like the theory book doesn't tell you that. I can't remember the name of that tune either, but you hear that kind of progression in some tunes. It's like, what are you supposed to solo over that? Well, B flat. According to me. So if somebody disagrees with you or with that, they can call me and I'll tell them that I'm right and they're wrong. Okay? So moving on to the third example, which is major 7 chords. You hear a lot of times in bossa novas, for example, like C major 7 to B flat major 7. Vamps. They could also move, but I'll make a vamp with the C major 7 to B flat major 7, 1 bar each, I guess. So there isn't really a scale that works over both those two chords, right? Because you have the B natural in the C major 7 and you have the B flat in the second chord. So you have to play a major scale to a Lydian scale, I guess. Which is nice and you should be able to do that, but again, same thing, it's easy to fall into you're letting the chord changes dictate what you're doing. It should be the other way around, right? Or it shouldn't be the other way around, but you should be able to play anything regardless of what the chord changes are. You should be able to play what your idea wants you to play. So harmonic generalization, I could play C mixolydian would be B flat Lydian, right? And the only note that is wrong here is the B flat over the C major 7. But that's just one note that's going to be wrong. So if I'm careful, it's not going to have it clash too much, right? So let's try that. It sounds fine to me. Right, so triads there don't clash, even though technically the B flat is completely wrong over C major 7. Again, you have that blues flavor. I hear George Benson all the time. He plays a flat 7 on a major 7 chord. Like he kind of goes like, that kind of thing, and it sounds great. Of course, it's George Benson. Even on the major 7 chord. So yeah, it works fine. I don't know why. It just does. I guess there's a difference between theory and practical reality situations. That's what I'm trying to tell you here. So you need to also to be aware of the correct scales, because let's say you're arranging for a big band, then you totally want to know which is the correct scale so you can find the correct extensions and stuff like that. But when you're on the bandstand and you're playing with people and it's happening, a lot of times these rules go out the window. And in the practice room, you can prepare for that by kind of simplifying and using just one scale. So the mixo over these two chords, C mixo over these two chords works perfectly fine if you ask me. So that was my little lesson on that. I shall see you next time.